Matthew chapter 18. We're going to read straight through the whole chapter. So sit back. You know, there's the story that how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I want to tell us that sometimes when we approach the word that way, we can miss the true meaning of a verse if we try to just do one verse at a time, okay? So today we're going to open wide, and we're going to try to take a big old bite of this elephant, okay? So prepare yourself for that, all right? Prepare yourself for that. Here we go, right at chapter 18, starting at verse 1. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Jesus called a little child and had him stand among them, and he said, "I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes a little child like this in my name welcomes me. But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to sin. Such things must come, but woe to the man through whom they come. If your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, throw it away. It's better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell." With that little child still standing beside him, he goes on to say, "See that you do not look down on one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should be lost. If your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault just between the 2 of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. But if he will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If still he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church, or the leadership, or the board in our case. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, treat him as you would a pagan or a tax collector, basically an unbeliever. I tell you the truth, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, I tell you that if 2 of you on earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 come together in my name, there I am with them." Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, and you could just hear this tone in his voice, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77, or your version may say 70 times 7. Anyways, it's a lot more than 7, okay? Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. The servant fell on his knees before him. "Be patient with me," he begged. "I will pay back everything." The servant's master took pity on him, or had mercy on him, and he canceled the debt and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him just 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees, just like he had done before the king, and begged him, be patient with me, and I will pay you back. But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. Well, when the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called that servant in. You wicked servant, he said. I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother from your heart. Go ahead and close your mouths and start chewing. There's a whole lot in this chapter. What's interesting is this chapter is driven by two questions. Two questions that might appear to be disconnected from one another, but I tell you that I really believe they are connected. The first question shows up at the very beginning. Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Now let's understand the context before we dig into this. If you look into the other Gospels, you'll find that really this was a debate that was taking place, an argument even that was going on about this very issue. They were going back and forth, the disciples were, about who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom. And then it comes before Jesus as a question. All right, Jesus, who is the greatest? Now we need to get the framework here. You see, these guys have a certain framework within their work that they're operating in. When they're thinking kingdom of heaven, they're thinking in the Jewish mindset. So they've got high priest at the top. Caiaphas would be at the top. They've got the Sanhedrin, the teachers of the law, the Pharisees and Sadducees, and they're gonna fall in some kind of order. They may know them by name. They may have, each one of them have a different idea about who's second and who's third and who's fourth. But anyways, all the church leadership of the day begin to fall in their rank and file. After that's all done, they probably have the rich men next. Then they would have the middle class men. Then they would have the poor men. Then they would have the women, probably after that. And last, but definitely least in their mind, would be the children. When they have this framework in mind and they're talking about who's the greatest in the kingdom, that's their natural framework within what they're working in. But here's what's interesting. See, they're following this Jesus guy around. There's momentum gaining. They're beginning to believe in their hearts that Jesus really is king, that he really is Messiah, and that he's going to overthrow this system in place. So they have their natural framework, and they see this Jesus guy moving up the ladder, and they're following him, so they're naturally thinking, hey, he's going to overthrow, or he's going to topple this system. And when he topples this system, and he's sitting on top, where are we going to fall in line? Am I going to be second? Are you going to be second? I think I'm going to be second. I think I'm better than you, so I'm going to be second. And they're having this debate. This is the framework within which this question shows up to Jesus. So here they are, they're looking at this, and Jesus pulls up a kid and says, if you want to be great in the kingdom, become like one of these. No, Jesus, no, we're up here, okay? We're up here, we're talking about this. This is the framework within which we're working. Who's going to be the greatest? Become like a child. And suddenly, Jesus takes this vertical framework within which they've always operated and always thought and always understood, and he just makes it horizontal, lowering those that are on top, elevating those that are on the bottom. If you want to see things the way my Father sees them become like one of these children. Because I am passionate about what you think is the least. In fact, I'm equally as passionate about them as I am about you. In fact, I am so passionate about them that I'm telling you, if one of you causes them to sin, woe to you. It's so bad for you that it would be better if a huge piece of concrete was attached to your neck and you were thrown into the sea. He takes that vertical and he just tips the scales. And it's like the great equalizer. Then we find the second question. Peter, after Jesus has been teaching on this stuff, he comes and he says, okay, Jesus, how many times do I have to forgive my brother when he sins against me? Now, I wish I could tell you who he was talking about. I wish I knew. I mean, did it come out of this argument that they were having? Had somebody offended him inside of this argument? You know what? I'm better than you, Peter. Boom. I mean, hey, wounding happens just like that, doesn't it? People hurt us with their words. They hurt us with their actions. It can happen just like that. It can happen with people that are closest to us. I don't know who Peter was referring to. But obviously, he was irked, and he wanted to know, look, how many times do I have to forgive somebody? And really, I think he was feeling pretty good about his suggestion. 7 times? Maybe that probably felt like a pretty high number to Peter. And Jesus was like, you're not getting it. Not 7 times. Way more than that, Peter. In fact, let me tell you a story. See, there was this master and he had servants, and he calls one servant to pay off his debt. Servant begs for his mercy, and he gives it. He pardons the debt completely. But when he goes out, having experienced that mercy, he does not pass it on. In fact, he finds somebody that owes him a little bit, a minor offense. Chokes him, demands the payment when the person begs just like he had begged the master. Instead of offering mercy as the master had offered him, he throws him in prison. Now, the point of this story is very, very clear to us. It doesn't take much explanation to understand the point of this story. You and I have been pardoned by the King. We have experienced his mercy. We make sure that our definitions are the same. Okay, we've talked about this before, but let's just make sure there's clarity. Justice is getting what you deserve, right? That's justice. We get justice. We understand justice. We like justice for others. We really like justice when somebody has done wrong to us. We want the justice system to work for those who do bad things. We want it to work. We get justice.